Greetings, fellow DSW students and Dr. Colby. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me for a few minutes and exploring my project in this course, which is dearly true to my heart because approximately 28.8 million of Americans in this country will have a diagnosable eating disorder. Out of those 28.8 million Americans, 10 million cis males will have suffered through an eating disorder, a diagnosable eating disorder, but very few of them get to treatment, go to treatment, have access to treatment. So therefore, as I share my screen, I would like for us to explore my research question, which is, what barriers do marginalized populations face when seeking eating disorder treatment? Throughout the literature, marginalized populations has been defined as cis males, folks that identify as male, folks within the LGBTQ community, and persons of color. They are the ones that their voices are not heard. They are the ones that don't have agency in relation to eating disorder treatment. And the research shows that 28.8 million, again, Americans have an eating disorder. What happens to these folks? The methods I have chosen throughout this course is a systemic explanatory design. I have chosen this because I believe a systemic review bridges the gap between a narrative methods and a meta-analysis. Furthermore, I have employed a mixed methods approach using both qualitative and quantitative data analysis. The reason why I've done this is because I want to give voice and agency through qualitative design to folks that are in treatment and also social workers and boots on the ground to give them voice as to explaining what are their barriers to treatment. The themes that I found throughout my research, first and foremost, is exploring racism within the medical and behavioral health community. There's a lot of people throughout the literature I've read, folks of color, marginalized populations, do not trust the medical and behavioral health community. They simply don't trust them. Denial and shame goes hand in hand as well. The literature has shown that cis males, if they have a diagnosable eating disorder, deny that it's a real problem. I don't have a real quote unquote eating disorder, which is false. Literature has shown that eating disorders are the second deadliest behavioral health challenge other than opioid abuse. Thirdly, I found in the literature that there is in psychoanalytic psychotherapy, egocentric nature of anorexia nervosa. What do I mean by that? Folks with anorexia nervosa especially, they value their eating disorder. It's a part of their identity. Just like if I identify as Latin, cis male, social worker, father, partner, folks with this specific eating disorder see it as part of their value. It's incongruent with their identity. So it's quite challenging for them to give up, to relinquish their control of their eating disorder, to give up that control, to give up part of their identity. Next, throughout the literature, I have found, sadly, there are quite a few pro-eating disorder websites that they argue that eating disorders are not a disease. Although the literature shows that eating disorders are a biopsychosocial medical disease that is quite deadly. But these websites, and also the dangers of social media and how that affects adolescent girls and boys, view eating disorders and a diet culture as a lifestyle versus a deadly disease. Next, I found through the literature that approximately residential, which is the level of care in eating disorder treatment, is about $40,000 per month. Marginalized populations, folks of poverty, folks with limited insurance benefits, cannot access care due to the costs, quite simply. And what I mean by eating disorders, folks, the 3 eating disorders, main ones that I found in the literature, are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. The gaps in the literature, since very few folks seek eating disorder treatment, there's a very small sample size. Average, I would say about 16 to 20 participants at least. So throughout the gaps, there's a small sample size. And it's only limited to white, affluent, cis female participants that have access to said treatment. Marginalized populations throughout the literature I've read, most of the conclusions I've shared are not represented in the literature. So what happens to those marginalized populations? What about their voice? What about their agency? What about their power? Do they suffer in silence? And using that systemic explanatory design, I also employed a mixed methods approach because I thought it was important not only to explore quantitative designs, but really exploring the person's voice, the person in the environment, a qualitative analysis, which I thought was very important. So please join me in really bringing the awareness to so many Americans, marginalized populations, and folks that are not marginalized, that are suffering today in silence. I want to thank you for your time, and I welcome any feedback as always. Thank you so much, and I wish everyone the very best. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Take care.